Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're tackling what is, hands down, the absolute ultimate biological puzzle. Just think about the sheer mathematical improbability of it all. We're talking about a 9-month journey where one single microscopic cell rapidly divides and specializes into trillions of perfectly organized cells to form a fully developed, incredibly complex human being. It's an absolute masterpiece of biological engineering. And today, we're going to break down exactly how this happens, step by step, and uncover the hidden choreography of human development.
Okay, let's dive right into this. We've got a highly structured roadmap for our explainer today to help make sense of this massive transformation. First up, we'll look at the placental connection. Second, the hormones powering pregnancy. Third, we're going to examine the 3 germ layers. And finally, we'll track those all-important fetal growth milestones. We're essentially building this biological house from the ground up.
So, starting off with Section 1, the placental connection and building the support system. This brings us right to our first major question. Before an embryo has any functioning organs of its own, how on earth does it eat? How does it breathe? How does it actually survive?
Well, right after implantation, biology does something incredibly clever. These little finger-like projections, they're called chorionic villi, pop up on the trophoblast. Now, the key word here is interdigitate. These villi and the maternal uterine tissue interdigitate. That basically means they weave and lock together, kind of like lacing your fingers together. And why this specific shape? It's a brilliant trick to massively increase the surface area between the mother and the embryo, maximizing the space for exchanging vital nutrients. Together, this interlaced tissue forms a joint structural and functional unit between the developing fetus and the maternal body. We call this unit the placenta.
And this brilliantly illustrates that whole setup. Notice how the highly protective environment of the uterus entirely surrounds the fetus. Inside that space, the embryo is just suspended there in amniotic fluid, which acts like this amazing biological shock absorber, shielding it from external bumps and movements. And anchoring the whole system is the life-giving placenta, completely integrated into the uterine wall. Connecting that placenta to the delicate, developing embryo is the umbilical cord. It really is a perfect, completely self-contained life support environment.
So, the really crucial point here is that the placenta acts as a biological trading post, but it is a very strictly regulated two-way street. What's truly fascinating is that maternal blood and fetal blood do not normally mix. The placenta acts as this highly selective barrier. On one side of the street, it facilitates the safe supply of oxygen and essential nutrients flowing straight to the embryo. On the flip side, it handles the removal of carbon dioxide and excretory waste flowing away from the embryo. And that umbilical cord? Think of it as a high-speed transit highway, ensuring the fetus gets exactly what it needs while efficiently removing the metabolic waste without skipping a single beat.
All right, let's move on to Section 2, hormones powering pregnancy. We've mapped out the physical connections, but now we really need to shift our focus to the unseen chemical architecture that sustains this entire bond.
Think about it for a second. What chemical signals keep this intricate life support system actually running? Because without a constant, precisely timed flood of chemical messengers, the amazing physical structures we just talked about would, well, they'd essentially shut down. The placenta isn't just a physical filter. It acts as a vital endocrine tissue too.
And it does that by producing these exclusive pregnancy hormones, each with a highly specific job. First, the placenta produces HCG, human chorionic gonadotrophin. Fun fact, if you've ever wondered how pregnancy tests work, HCG is the exact hormone they're looking for. The placenta also makes HPL, human placental lactogen, which helps regulate the mother's metabolism so the fetus gets plenty of energy. And then, in the later phases of pregnancy, a hormone called relaxin is secreted by the ovary. Relaxin does exactly what it sounds like it does. It literally relaxes the ligaments in the mother's pelvis to prep her body for birth. Now, the huge takeaway here is that HCG, HPL, and relaxin are produced in women only during pregnancy. Actually, just to clarify, other hormones like estrogen and cortisol absolutely do increase several-fold to support growth. But this specific trio, they are the exclusive chemical signatures of pregnancy.
Moving right along to Section 3, the 3 germ layers. We are transitioning now from the external support and hormonal systems to the unbelievable cellular differentiation happening right inside the embryo itself. This is where the raw materials are sorted out.
Literally immediately after implantation, the inner cell mass of the embryo differentiates into 3 distinct layers. First up, an outer layer called the ectoderm.
Next, an inner layer called the endoderm, and then, very soon after, a middle layer called the mesoderm pops up between them. I want you to just pause and think about the sheer magnitude of this for a second. These three foundational layers eventually give rise to absolutely every single tissue and organ in the adult human body. The ectoderm goes on to become your skin and your nervous system. The mesoderm transforms into your muscles, your bones, and your beating heart. And the endoderm, that forms your digestive and respiratory systems. Literally everything you are physically made of started as just one of these three layers.
Now, what's really interesting here is what's hidden deep within that inner cell mass. There are these highly unique cells that possess immense potency, stem cells. Think of stem cells as the ultimate biological wildcards. They have the sheer biological power to give rise to absolutely all the tissues and organs we just talked about. They're the ultimate blank slates of human development. And this incredible adaptability is exactly why stem cells are so massively prized in modern medical research today. Understanding how they naturally build a human from scratch holds the key to figuring out how we might, one day, repair damaged tissues and cure diseases.
Let's move to Section 4 and see how this all builds. Fetal growth milestones. We're zooming out from the microscopic cells to the macroscopic, chronological timeline of the baby's physical development.
This timeline is nothing short of breathtaking when you slow down and really look at the speed of it. At just 1 month, which is an incredibly early stage, the embryo's heart is already formed. By the end of the 2nd month, the fetus develops distinct limbs and digits. Fast forward to the end of 12 weeks, the close of the 1st trimester, and almost all the foundational blueprints are completely laid out. Most of the major organ systems are well developed. By the 5th month, we see the very first voluntary movements of the fetus, plus the appearance of hair on the head. And finally, by the end of 9 months, the fetus is fully developed and ready for delivery.
To really put that rapid timeline into perspective, let's look at a real-world anchor. At just 1 single month into pregnancy, the very first sign of a growing fetus can actually be noticed by a doctor. If they listen carefully through a stethoscope, they can hear the heart sound. It's this incredibly emotional, profound moment where microscopic, abstract cellular biology bridges the gap right into the macro reality of a new human life. I mean, it's something you can physically hear beating inside the room.
And as we fill out the details of the timeline, let's look at the end of about 24 weeks. That's the close of the 2nd trimester. At this point, the biology shifts from urgently building those major life-sustaining organs to focusing on refinement, protection, and sensory prep for the outside world. The body becomes covered with fine hair, the eyelids actually separate, and tiny eyelashes are formed. These specific details truly highlight this meticulous biological craftsmanship. It's no longer just about building bulk, it's about refining the finest, tiniest features required for a human to interact with the world they're about to enter. So considering this extraordinary 9-month journey, from the interdigitating placenta and exclusive chemical hormones all the way down to the formation of tiny eyelashes, how does a microscopic cluster of stem cells perfectly orchestrate such an incredibly complex biological choreography? How do these cells know exactly when to stop dividing? How do they know exactly where to travel to build a heart instead of a lung? It leaves us pondering the sheer, almost computational brilliance of human biology. It's a marvel of reproduction that absolutely never ceases to amaze. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning the incredible science happening all around and inside us.